Morning Year 6 and welcome to Thursday's reading lesson. You remember our theme of the week? Civil rights? Have you guessed or looked up what it means yet? So I'll tell you. Civil rights are the rights of people. So people have a right not to be discriminated against. And decades ago, in America and in Britain, people were treated differently. So there was a thing called the Civil Rights Movement, and that was where people struggled for justice and equality for African Americans. It started in America and it also happened over here. Did you guess right? So our last text on civil rights today is a poem by Maya Angelou called Caged Bird, and this was written in 1968. What I'd like you to do now is read along to the poem with Maya Angelou on the link that you have got. The link is on the Hookload blog and also in the email that you've been sent out. Once you've read along with the poem, unpause this video and we'll carry on. Okay, Year 6. So let's have a look at some of the vocabulary that was used in the poem. Stalks down his narrow cage, can seldom see through. So if we look at this word here, stalks. Stalks mean to walk stiffly, and it can also mean to pursue stealthily. So if we use the word stalker, so we can imagine someone walking around looking for something. So we can imagine the bird in his cage walking around looking for something, but can seldom see through. Now, seldom means rarely, so he can't see through his cage very often. Here the word is longed. This is another word for wanted. He wanted something. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown. So a trill is the sound that a bird makes. Now here the trill is fearful. So that means that this bird, even though he's singing, is a bit afraid of something. So first of all, what do you think this poem is about? And what makes you think that? So now I want you to pause the video and have a think what this poem is about and write your answers down in your reading booklets. Once you've done that, come back and unpause. So here I have an example. It's the verse that's read twice in the poem, and I've used this to think about what this poem is about. It's about a bird that sings like he's afraid because he doesn't know what's coming. He wants his tune to be heard because he's singing of freedom. Did you think that? Let's have a look at the next question. So think about what the themes are in this poem. So a theme is the main idea. So what is the main idea of this poem? I've put here some of the verses from the poem. What idea is it trying to portray? I want you to pause the video and have a think and then join me back so we can discuss it. So I think some of the themes of this poem could be courage and perseverance, and I think this because the bird seems to be going through difficult circumstances. He's stuck in his cage, he wants to get out. We use the word here rage, so he's angry. He's determined because he keeps singing about his freedom. What did you think the poem was about? What were the main ideas that you think it's about? Let's have a look at the next question. So this is about figurative language. The poet uses alliteration within this poem. Find and copy an example of this, and what might be the effect of this on the reader. Can you remember what alliteration is? It's when words begin with the same sound. So an example would be sizzling sausages. Pause the video now, try and find the alliteration, and then come back to see if you found the same ones as me. Great, so now you've found the alliteration, let's have a look. So I found two examples, and I'm going to look at this one first. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. So here we have shadow and shouts. It's the repetition of the sh sound. The effect this has is when the reader reads it, it makes us emphasize those words more, like shadow, shouts, and we can actually imagine and picture the shouting shadow in the nightmare. Now I've got this example as well. and the trade winds soft through the sighing breeze. Now, even though these words aren't next to each other, they still have this sound. And as we read it, it makes us speak softer. The wind's soft through the sighing trees, and it sounds like the wind that would be going through the trees. And when we sigh, we make a it kind of gives us the impression of sighing as we're reading. What did you think the effect would be? Here we have an extract from the poem. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. Here we want to know is what impact is the cage having on the bird? To answer this question, think about the vocabulary that the poet has used and how he's used the vocabulary to say the impact that the cage is having. Pause the video and then come back to discuss. So in this extract, we see that the bird is stalking. Now, we don't usually associate the word stalk as a nice word. His narrow cage gives the impression that he hasn't got much space. Can seldom see, can rarely see through his bars of rage. So rage is another word for anger. So I think the impact of this cage, it's a small cage that he rarely sees through, is making the bird angry. And I've chosen this because of the word rage. What did you think? Let's have a look at the next question. So here we have, the poet writes that the bird free claims the sky. What words and phrases does she use to show that the caged bird cannot have his freedom? So I've chosen a couple of extracts here. Look at these and see if you can choose words or phrases that suggest the bird is not free. So what did you think, Year 6? Let's go over a couple. So here we have, again, his narrow cage that he can't see through. We know that if someone's caged up, they are not free. So this is definitely showing us that the bird can't have his freedom. Here's another one. His wings are clipped. Now, when birds have their wings clipped, it means that they can't fly, or they can fly just a little bit, but they definitely can't fly off. So this again suggests that the bird hasn't got its freedom. In this extract here, I've chosen the words longed for, because if we long for something, we want something. So if he's wanting his freedom and longing for his freedom, we know that he hasn't got it. Did you think of any other words or phrases? So the next question is, what do you think the poem is about now? Do you still think the poem is about a bird that's trapped in its cage? If you've got a grown-up or a sibling there to talk this through, have a go at discussing it with them and see if you still think that the poem is about a bird, or have your thoughts changed? If they have, how? Pause the video and then join us to discuss. So what did you think, Year 6? Is this poem still about a bird, or is it more? I think the bird has been used as a metaphor for the people, because it's wrote at a time when the civil rights movement was still going on. So I think Maya Angelou has wrote this, and the bird is a metaphor for the black people in America who are not free, and they keep trying, and the poet says the bird is singing about its freedom. So I think that the bird is the black people that are trying to get their freedom in America. Did you think that too, or did you think something different? I'm looking forward to reading your answers on this question. So your solo task today is to summarise the meaning of this poem in 30 words or less. Now you might think, oh, that's easy, there's only 30 words, but actually it's quite hard trying to get your ideas and shortening them so it is only 30 words. Have a go and then come back and I'll show you my example of the answer. Welcome back, Year 6. Let's have a look at my example. So I've said, the bird is a metaphor for the people who feel caged because they want to be equal and are crying out to be free. What did you write? I can't wait to see it. So this is the end of today's lesson. Tomorrow we'll be looking at our class novel again. So what I'd like you to do is make sure that you've read right to the end of our class novel by the end of today. So that's all. So today you should be reading chapters 27 and 28 to see what happens in the end. See you tomorrow, guys.